Have you ever felt your entire mood shifting because of someone else's words, expressions, or energy? As if your inner calm was handed over to them without you even noticing? It's a quiet kind of surrender that happens slowly, but it steals more strength than any loud battle ever could. And today we're going to reclaim that strength together. In this audiobook, we will explore how to stop letting people control your emotions, how to rebuild inner balance, and how to protect your peace in moments that usually break you. Chapter 1. When your heart reacts before your mind. There are moments when a single comment, a careless tone, or even someone's silence hits you deeper than it should. You feel your chest tighten, your mind race, and your whole presence shrink into a space where their behavior defines your worth. This reaction is not weakness. It's a pattern built over years of wanting acceptance, harmony, and safety. Yet, when these emotional reflexes take over, your inner world becomes vulnerable to every external shift, leaving you exhausted by things that were never yours to carry. You may recognize the feeling of overthinking a short message, rereading conversations to find hidden meanings, or replaying someone's expression long after they've forgotten the moment. These reactions become heavy chains that keep your mind trapped in places where peace cannot grow. And the more sensitive your heart is, the easier it becomes for others, intentionally or unintentionally, to influence the rhythm of your emotions. But emotional sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a sign of depth, empathy, and awareness. The journey begins not by shutting down your feelings, but by learning how to guide them gently instead of letting them be pulled by every external force. This requires understanding where the reaction begins, why it takes hold so quickly, and how you can create a gentle space between what happens and how you respond. Some people trigger you because they touch an old wound. Some trigger you because they reflect a fear you've never addressed. And some trigger you simply because your heart is tired and hasn't been treated with the compassion it deserves. Recognizing this is the first step toward reclaiming your emotional independence. When you start observing your reactions instead of drowning in them, something shifts inside you. You begin to see that not every comment deserves your energy, not every tone deserves your hurt, and not every action deserves your emotional surrender. This awareness is subtle at first, like a soft breath after holding your chest tight for too long, but with time it becomes a calm strength that no one can easily disturb. And as we move forward, you will learn how to build that strength piece by piece, gently, patiently, and with deep respect for yourself. When you become aware of how quickly your heart reacts, something soft begins to shift inside you. You realize that your emotions are not rising from this moment alone. They rise from places that were shaped long before today. A small change in someone's tone or expression feels heavier because it connects to older feelings you never fully understood or healed. This does not mean you are weak. It simply means you have carried more than you ever admitted to yourself. You may notice that your mind starts creating meanings instantly. A short message feels distant. A delayed reply feels like rejection. A simple pause feels like you did something wrong. These thoughts grow fast and they take your peace with them. But most of the time, the other person is lost in their own world, dealing with their own worries, and their behavior has nothing to do with your value or your importance. This is where your awareness becomes your strength. When you feel that first emotional pull, you do not have to react immediately. You can give yourself a small pause. You can allow your breath to settle before your thoughts start running. In that gentle pause, you will notice something important. Not every moment deserves the weight you are giving it. Some moments only feel heavy because they touch old wounds, not because they are truly painful. As you practice this understanding, your reactions slowly begin to soften. You stop letting every tone define your worth. You stop letting every silence shake your confidence. You stop letting every mood of another person decide how you should feel. You start seeing things more clearly, and clarity makes the heart lighter. This does not mean you stop feeling. It means you feel with awareness. It means you understand your heart without letting it be controlled by everything around you. It means you can care without collapsing. You can love without losing yourself. You can listen without absorbing every emotion in the room. And with every small step, you begin reclaiming a part of yourself that you had lost in the noise of overthinking. You start recognizing that your emotions belong to you, not to the actions of others. You begin standing in a quieter, stronger place inside you. A place where your peace is not so fragile anymore. A place where your heart can breathe again. Chapter 2. When expectations quietly shape your emotions. As your awareness grows, you begin to notice another layer of your emotional world. It becomes clear that many of your reactions do not come from what people actually do, but from what you quietly expect them to do. These expectations are soft and hidden, yet they influence your heart more than you realize. You expect someone to reply with the same warmth you offer. You expect your efforts to be seen. You expect your presence to matter. You expect people to understand your silence, your tone, your needs. And when these expectations are not met, something inside you sinks. The moment becomes heavier than the situation itself. You start wondering why they didn't respond the way you hoped. You start doubting yourself, even though nothing in the moment was truly wrong. The disappointment does not come from their action. It comes from the picture you held in your mind. Expectations are natural. Everyone has them. But when your peace depends on them being fulfilled, your emotions become fragile. Even small changes in someone's behavior begin to affect your inner balance. A short message feels cold. A forgotten reply feels personal. A distracted tone feels like distance. And slowly, without noticing, you let your mood be controlled by moments that were never meant to define your worth. But here is the truth. People act from their own inner world, their stress, their burdens, their distractions. Their responses often have nothing to do with you. Their silence may simply be tiredness. Their tone may reflect their day, not your importance. Understanding this helps you step back from taking everything so deeply into your heart. When you gently release expectations, something shifts inside you. You stop waiting for others to confirm your value. You stop depending on their attention to feel seen. You stop letting their emotional waves disturb your inner calm. You begin responding from a place of clarity instead of fear. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what isn't yours. You start giving people space to be human, and in doing so, you give yourself space to breathe. You learn to appreciate what someone offers without demanding more than they are able to give in that moment. Slowly, your emotions become lighter. Your reactions become softer. Your peace becomes steadier. And you begin to understand that true emotional strength is not built through control. It is built through gentle acceptance, honest awareness, and the ability to let go of the things that were never meant to belong to your heart. As you look deeper into your expectations, you begin to notice how quietly they shape the way you feel about yourself. When someone responds the way you hoped, you feel valued. When they don't, you feel uncertain. Your emotions start moving with their behavior, even though their actions were never meant to define your worth. This constant emotional shifting becomes exhausting, and it slowly steals the peace you are trying to protect. You start seeing how much energy you spend thinking about what someone meant, why they acted a certain way, or how you should respond next. These thoughts create pressure inside you, and this pressure comes from wanting people to treat you exactly the way you treat them. But people are different. Their capacity is different. Their emotional understanding is different. Not everyone loves, listens, or communicates the way you do. And that's where the hurt begins, not in what happened, but in what you expected to happen. When you realize this, a new kind of freedom opens inside you. You begin accepting that you cannot control how people feel, how quickly they reply, or how consistently they show care. But you can control how deeply their behavior affects your inner world. You can choose not to let every shift in their energy create a storm inside you. You can choose to stay centered, even when others are unclear or inconsistent. This shift happens quietly. You stop waiting for perfect responses. You stop reading between lines that were never meant to carry hidden meanings. You stop assuming the worst when someone is simply busy or distracted, and slowly, your emotional space begins to clear. You also start giving yourself the compassion you always hoped to receive. You begin understanding that your need for reassurance comes from old wounds, not from the present moment. And when you offer yourself the understanding you seek from others, the weight begins to lift. Your heart learns to breathe again. You begin appreciating the effort people do make, instead of focusing on the moments they fall short. You allow relationships to be human, not perfect. You allow yourself to feel without overthinking. You allow peace to stay, even when situations don't match your expectations. This gentle acceptance becomes a steady strength. You no longer break over small disappointments. You no longer lose yourself in someone else's silence. You no longer let every mood around you shape how you see yourself. You start choosing yourself. You start choosing clarity. You start choosing emotional independence. And this choice quietly changes everything. Chapter 3. When other people's energy starts guiding your mood. There are moments when you enter a situation feeling completely fine, yet something small changes the way your heart responds. A person's tone feels a bit heavier, their silence stretches longer than usual, or their expression holds a tension you did not expect. These small signals affect you more than you want to admit, and before you understand what is happening, your own mood begins to shift with theirs. You start adjusting your words, your posture, and even your thoughts, almost as if you must take responsibility for the atmosphere around you. This quiet reaction develops over time, especially when you have a sensitive heart that notices emotional details others easily ignore. You try to keep peace, not because someone asked, but because you don't like the feeling of discomfort in the room. Yet slowly, this habit turns heavy. You begin carrying emotions that do not belong to you. You feel uneasy, even when you did nothing wrong. You think carefully before speaking, worried you might make things worse. Your mind starts searching for explanations, even though most situations have nothing to do with you at all. People often move through their own struggles. Their silence may be connected to stress, their frustration to exhaustion, and their distance to worries they have not shared. But your heart interprets these signals personally because you have learned to respond quickly to emotional changes. This creates confusion and drains your energy in ways you don't notice immediately. To protect your inner space, you must recognize when this pattern begins. When you feel that first shift inside you, pause gently and return to yourself. You do not need to absorb feelings that were never meant for you. You can offer presence without taking on their tension. You can show kindness without surrendering your peace. As you practice this awareness, your emotional balance starts to become clearer. You stop blaming yourself for things you never caused. You stop carrying moods that were never placed in your hands. You stop shrinking just to make the moment feel lighter for someone else. This change does not make you distant. It makes you healthier. It helps you stay connected to others without losing connection to yourself. You begin to understand that your peace is not something that should shift every time someone else feels unsettled. You learn to hold your emotions steady, even when someone else feels uncertain or overwhelmed. This gentle shift brings back a sense of control you may have forgotten you had. With time, you feel lighter moving through moments that once drained you. You begin trusting your inner stability more than the unpredictable moods around you. And in this understanding, you discover a deeper strength, one that allows you to stay soft, stay present, and stay calm without losing yourself in someone else's emotional storm. As you grow more aware of the emotions around you, something inside you begins to shift in a steady and healthy way. You start recognizing the difference between what belongs to you and what belongs to someone else. And this clarity brings a calmness you have been needing for a long time. You no longer rush to fix every tense moment, because you understand that not every mood requires your involvement. This small understanding protects your energy in ways you did not expect. You begin noticing how often you carried feelings that were never yours. You carried someone's silence as if it was a message for you. You carried someone's distance as if you caused it. You carried someone's frustration as if it reflected your place in their life. But now, your heart starts releasing this unnecessary weight. You no longer attach stories to moments that are simply a reflection of another person's day. This new awareness makes your emotional space feel lighter. You stop reacting to everything instantly, and you give yourself room to breathe before you respond. This small pause helps you see that many situations do not need a reaction at all. They only need understanding, patience, and a quiet reminder that you do not have to carry every emotion you notice. That single thought brings a gentle strength back into your life. You also start giving others the freedom to have their own emotional process. You understand that people can be distant without rejecting you. They can be quiet without being upset. They can be overwhelmed without expecting you to fix anything. This understanding softens the pressure you once felt so often. You no longer read too deeply into simple moments, and your heart becomes more steady and open. As you continue this growth, your confidence becomes quieter but stronger. You trust yourself more because you are no longer controlled by the emotional waves around you. You respond from clarity instead of fear. You speak from calm instead of confusion. You hold yourself with more care, and this care reflects in the choices you make each day. This stage of your journey shows you that emotional independence is not about building walls. It is about building awareness. It is about choosing what deserves space in your heart and what does not. It is about staying connected without losing yourself in the process. And each time you protect your peace, you reinforce the strength you have been slowly reclaiming. Chapter 4. Understanding Emotional Boundaries. As your awareness grows, you begin to understand how important it is to protect the space where your emotions live. You notice that many of your reactions in the past came from trying to keep harmony, even when that harmony cost you your own balance. You used to absorb the smallest changes around you and adjust yourself without thinking. Now you see how tiring that pattern has been, and how quietly it shaped the way you moved through each moment. You start realizing that boundaries are not about keeping people away. They are about keeping yourself steady. When you hold your emotional space with more care, you begin responding to others from clarity instead of pressure. You no longer feel the need to match their mood or soften the moment for everyone. You pause before you react, and that pause gives you the confidence to choose what feels right for you. This simple shift brings a sense of calm that you had been missing. You begin to speak more honestly because you are no longer afraid that your truth will disappoint someone. You allow your feelings to exist without needing immediate approval or understanding. You see how much lighter your heart feels when you stop carrying emotions that were never yours. You learn to stay present without absorbing the heaviness around you, and this helps you remain steady even when someone else is struggling. As you grow in this understanding, your conversations start changing. You listen with care, but you no longer sacrifice your own balance in the process. You respond gently, but you do not stretch yourself beyond what feels right. You begin to trust your own limits, and this trust becomes a quiet strength inside you. You discover that boundaries are not rigid, they are soft reminders that help you stay aligned with yourself. You notice your thoughts becoming clearer when you stop taking every shift in someone's tone personally. You begin respecting your emotional energy the same way you respect your time. You understand that protecting your inner peace is not selfish, it is necessary. This awareness helps you move through your days with more ease because you no longer feel responsible for solving every tension around you. With time, you grow more comfortable honoring your needs. You no longer explain yourself out of fear. You no longer apologize for taking space. You no longer feel guilty for choosing what supports your well-being. You understand that caring for others does not mean abandoning yourself. It means showing up with a steady heart and a clear mind. Through this gentle growth, you begin to feel more connected to who you are becoming. You see that emotional independence is not about hardening yourself. It is about holding yourself with enough care that you can remain soft without falling apart. And with each day, you feel your inner balance becoming more natural, more grounded, and more deeply your own. As you continue exploring this part of yourself, you begin to notice how much steadier life feels when you stay close to your own emotions. You no longer rush to shape your reactions around someone else's mood. You give yourself a quiet moment to understand what is happening inside you. And this pause becomes a reminder that your feelings deserve space before the outside world influences you. You start noticing the signs that once pulled you into emotional tension. A shift in someone's tone or a moment of silence no longer throws you off balance the way it once did. You sense the familiar pull, but you return to yourself before reacting. This simple practice helps you hold your peace in situations where you once felt pressured to adjust instantly. You begin to see how much strength exists in staying connected to your own center. You do not absorb every emotion around you. You do not take responsibility for feelings people have not sorted within themselves. You listen with care, but you do not lose your voice in the process. This balanced way of being allows you to show compassion without carrying weight that was never yours. Your conversations become more honest and easier to navigate. You speak clearly because you are not trying to manage someone else's reaction. You understand that their frustration, silence, or distance does not mean you did something wrong. It reflects what they are carrying within their own world. This awareness helps you respond with clarity instead of taking everything personally. You also begin to respect your emotional limits. You say no when your heart feels tired. You step back when the moment becomes too heavy. You allow yourself to leave situations that drain you without forcing yourself to stay for the sake of keeping peace. This gentle honesty strengthens the trust you have with yourself. As you grow in this understanding, you notice your inner space becoming lighter. Your thoughts are calmer because they are not tangled in unnecessary overthinking. Your heart feels more open because it is not filled with emotions that do not belong to you. You begin carrying yourself with a softer rhythm, moving through your days with steadiness instead of pressure. This shift also changes how you connect with others. You show up without the hidden weight of expectations. You listen without absorbing their struggles. You support without losing your balance. This creates relationships that feel more genuine because they come from clarity rather than emotional confusion. With time, you see your sense of peace becoming stronger. Difficult moments do not shake you the way they once did. You recover faster and you return to yourself more easily. You feel safer within your own emotions, and this safety helps you move through life with a quiet confidence. And slowly you realize something important. Protecting your emotional boundaries does not limit your heart. It simply gives it space to breathe. Chapter 5. Reclaiming your inner stability. As you continue building emotional awareness, you start noticing how your stability grows each time you choose to stay connected to yourself. You no longer move into old patterns of overthinking when something feels unclear. Instead, you pause, breathe, and remind yourself that every moment does not need an immediate reaction. This simple shift protects your energy and keeps you grounded in situations that once felt overwhelming. You begin understanding that stability is not something you search for outside. It is something you build within. You feel more centered when you stop letting small changes in someone else's behavior shape your emotions. Their silence does not shake your confidence. Their tone does not define your worth. Their mood does not control your direction. This awareness helps you hold your space without losing your softness. You also start noticing how your heart responds when you choose calm over urgency. You slow your thoughts long enough to separate your feelings from the atmosphere around you. You understand that someone's stress is part of their own journey, not a sign that you must change yourself to fix it. You allow yourself to witness their emotions without absorbing the pressure behind them. This balance gives you strength to stay steady, even in moments that once felt heavy. Your daily interactions begin to feel easier. You speak with more clarity because you are not trying to protect yourself from imagined outcomes. You listen with more presence because you are not fighting your own fears. You respond with more ease because you trust your ability to handle what comes. This trust forms slowly, but each day it becomes stronger. As this stability grows, your reactions soften. You no longer jump to conclusions. You no longer create stories to explain someone else's behavior. You no longer doubt yourself when a moment feels uncertain. Instead, you look inward and ask what you need, and this question guides you back to your center. You treat your emotions with respect, and this respect forms a foundation for deeper confidence. You see your relationships shifting too. You show up with more honesty because you do not feel the need to hide your feelings. You offer support without losing your balance. You allow others to carry their own emotions while you carry yours. This creates healthier connections built on clarity instead of pressure. With time, you begin trusting the quiet strength within you. You notice how peaceful you feel when you no longer chase reassurance or fear misunderstanding. And with each passing moment, you grow more comfortable living from this grounded place. You start seeing your inner world as a safe space, steady, calm, and strong. You learn that reclaiming your stability is not one sudden change. It is shaped through small choices that guide you back to yourself. And each time you return, you feel a deeper strength rising within you. There comes a point in your journey where stability begins to feel less like something you chase and more like something you quietly grow within yourself. You notice that your mind stays clearer when you trust your own understanding instead of reacting to every shift around you. A small pause before responding gives you the space to understand what you truly feel, and that space becomes one of your strongest tools. It reminds you that your emotions have value even when others do not reflect them back. You begin seeing the difference between reacting from old fears and responding from clarity. Reactions drain your energy, but responses grounded in awareness help you stay centered. You no longer try to predict what someone else might think or feel. You allow people to carry their emotions while you carry your own. This separation is gentle, but it brings a steady calm into your life. The more you trust this balance, the more confident you feel in your ability to handle emotional challenges. You give yourself room to process instead of rushing to fix things. You remind yourself that ease grows when you stop fighting your emotions and allow them to settle naturally. This quiet honesty builds a deeper sense of security within your heart. Your relationships begin to shift in meaningful ways. You express yourself with more ease because you are not trying to shape your words around someone else's reactions. You listen with presence, not pressure. You support others without losing your balance. Every interaction feels clearer because you are no longer carrying hidden tension or silent responsibility. Strength reveals itself in small, steady choices. It shows up when you breathe before speaking. It appears when you choose patience over urgency. It grows each time you allow others to handle their own emotions without letting their feelings take over your inner world. These choices create a foundation that becomes stronger with each passing day. You begin to recognize progress in the way you recover from difficult moments. Your emotions settle quicker. Your mind feels lighter. You return to yourself with more ease because you no longer assume every discomfort is a sign that something is wrong. You understand that growth often feels uncomfortable, but that discomfort does not take away your strength. In time, you stop questioning your worth when someone else pulls away. You stop carrying guilt for situations you did not create. You stop losing sleep over moods that were never yours to control. Instead, you meet yourself with compassion and clarity, trusting that you can face any moment without abandoning your emotional center. This chapter of your journey reveals a gentle truth. Stability does not come from holding everything together. It comes from holding yourself with enough care to stay steady, even when life moves around you. Chapter 6. Breaking free from emotional triggers. There comes a stage in your growth where you begin noticing the patterns that once controlled your emotions. Small comments, sudden changes, and unexpected reactions no longer unsettle you the way they did before. You start observing these triggers with a clearer mind, almost as if you are seeing them from a gentle distance. This shift helps you understand that the power they once had over you is slowly fading. You begin realizing that a trigger is not a sign of weakness. It is simply an old wound asking for attention. Instead of reacting immediately, you give yourself space to understand why a moment feels heavy. This space allows you to respond with intention instead of falling into the same emotional loops. You start recognizing that the emotion rising inside you is not the problem. The story attached to it is what creates pressure. Your awareness deepens as you observe how quickly your mind used to build meanings around someone's tone or behavior. Now, you slow those thoughts before they take over. You remind yourself that not every sharp word, distant expression, or tense pause is directed at you. People carry their own struggles, and their reactions often reflect what they are navigating internally. You begin approaching triggering moments with a softer heart. Instead of defending yourself instantly, you stay curious. You ask what part of you feels hurt. You breathe through the discomfort rather than fighting it. This practice helps you remain grounded even when emotions rise quickly. You no longer feel controlled by the moment. You feel present within it. Your relationships also shift as this understanding grows. You communicate with more clarity because you are not speaking from a place of fear. You listen without assuming the worst. You allow space in conversations without rushing to fix the tension. This calm presence creates healthier connections because you are responding from stability instead of past pain. With time, you begin noticing that your triggers lose intensity. The same situations that once overwhelmed you now feel manageable. You recover faster. You regain your balance more easily. You understand that healing does not remove triggers instantly. It teaches you how to move through them with awareness and compassion. This chapter of your journey reveals something powerful. You are no longer shaped by old patterns. You are learning to shape your responses from a place of strength, not fear. Healing continues in small, steady movements that often go unnoticed until you look back and realize how much you have changed. Situations that once pulled you into fear or confusion now feel easier to navigate. You still feel the initial stir of emotion, but you do not fall into the same patterns that once controlled your reactions. Instead, you give yourself a quiet moment to understand what is rising within you, and that moment becomes a doorway to clarity. You begin to see that a trigger loses strength when you stop fighting it. The more gently you meet the feeling, the less power it has over your day. You take a breath and remind yourself that the emotion is temporary. You allow it to pass through you instead of holding it tightly. This softness helps you respond with intention, not with fear or defensiveness. You also start recognizing how your body communicates before your mind forms a story. A slight tension in your chest, a quick shift in your breathing, a familiar heaviness behind your thoughts. These signals guide you toward awareness rather than panic. You learn to slow down and listen to them without assuming the worst. Your relationships benefit from this understanding. You no longer react from past wounds. You no longer interpret every pause or change as a threat. You allow others to express themselves without shaping their emotions into something personal. This creates more open conversations and reduces the silent pressure you used to carry inside your heart. You begin responding to difficult moments with a softer presence. A pause replaces an argument. A breath replaces irritation. A moment of reflection replaces old habits of assuming blame. You grow more patient with yourself because you understand that healing takes time. You are unlearning patterns built over years, and every gentle step forward matters. As your self-awareness deepens, you feel more in control of your emotional direction. You decide which feelings deserve your attention and which ones are echoes from a past that no longer defines you. You start choosing peace not as an escape, but as a conscious response. This choice strengthens you in ways that force never could. Your confidence grows as you realize you no longer collapse under emotional pressure. You no longer break down over moments that once consumed your thoughts. You return to yourself faster, and this return becomes one of the most important parts of your growth. It shows you that you are learning to hold your emotions instead of being held by them. In time, you begin to trust that you can face triggering moments with steady awareness. They may still appear, but they no longer shape your entire day. They no longer define your worth. What once felt like a threat now feels like a reminder of how far you have come. And with this realization, you step into a deeper truth. You are not here to replay old stories. You are here to rewrite the way you respond to them. Chapter 7. Understanding emotional detachment in a healthy way. There is a stage in emotional growth where you begin to see how much peace comes from holding your heart gently instead of tightly. You notice that you no longer react to everything with the same intensity you once did. Moments that used to pull you into confusion now give you a chance to breathe and observe. This shift is subtle, but it shows you that you are learning to stay connected without becoming overwhelmed. You start understanding that healthy detachment is not a withdrawal. It is not silence born from hurt or distance created from fear. Instead, it is the ability to remain present without letting every emotion around you enter your inner world. You listen with openness, but you protect the space where your peace lives. This balance helps you interact with others without losing the connection you have built with yourself. Small situations begin to reflect this growth. A delayed reply no longer shakes your confidence. A short answer does not make you question your worth. A shift in someone's mood does not drag you into old stories. You see that people move through their own emotional cycles, and not everything points back to you. This realization frees you from the weight of overthinking. Your compassion also becomes healthier. You feel for others without carrying their entire emotional load. You understand their struggles without letting them become your own. You support where you can, but you also step back where you must. This kind of detachment allows you to care deeply while staying grounded in your own truth. Your communication begins to change too. You speak more honestly because you are not afraid of how your truth will be received. You no longer soften your needs out of fear of conflict. You allow conversations to unfold naturally instead of shaping every moment to keep the peace. This honesty strengthens your emotional balance and makes your presence feel more genuine. As this awareness deepens, you feel lighter inside. Your thoughts are no longer driven by assumptions. Your heart is not weighed down by expectations. You allow people to be themselves without translating their behavior into personal meaning. You understand that emotional independence does not remove connection. It strengthens it by removing unnecessary pressure. You begin giving yourself room to rest emotionally. You take breaks without guilt. You step away from draining situations without feeling selfish. You trust your limits because they protect your well-being. This self-respect becomes an anchor that keeps you steady in moments that once overwhelmed you. Over time, you notice that you can stay close to people without absorbing their storms. You can remain open without feeling exposed. You can care without collapsing under the weight of someone else's feelings. This ability shows you that emotional detachment, when practiced with awareness, creates clarity rather than distance. Some realizations arrive quietly, almost unnoticed, yet they shift the way you carry yourself. You begin to see that emotional detachment is not about feeling less, it is about feeling clearly. It gives you the space to understand what belongs to you and what never should have entered your mind in the first place. This clarity grows slowly, but it changes how you respond to the world around you. You notice that your reactions soften when you stop assuming the worst. A moment of distance from someone no longer sparks the same anxiety. You understand that people drift in and out of their own thoughts, and their silence is not always a message meant for you. This understanding helps you breathe more freely through interactions that once felt heavy. Healthy detachment also teaches you to stay present without becoming emotionally tangled. You can listen deeply while still honoring your own limits. You can care genuinely without stepping into roles that drain your strength. You can support others without letting their unresolved emotions settle inside you. This balance helps you show up with a steady heart, even when the situation is uncertain. There are times when stepping back becomes the most loving choice you can make for yourself. Not because you are giving up, but because you are acknowledging your capacity. You realize that emotional clarity requires space, and space is something you are finally willing to give yourself. This space allows you to return to conversations with a calmer mind and a clearer understanding of what feels right. As you continue growing in this awareness, you find that your self-respect deepens. You are no longer afraid to say no. You are no longer uncomfortable expressing your needs. You no longer apologize for choosing peace over unnecessary emotional strain. Your boundaries become a quiet expression of care. Care for your well-being, your energy, and your emotional truth. Your relationships benefit from this shift as well. You communicate with more intention. You express your thoughts without fear of being misunderstood. You show affection without losing your sense of self. You allow closeness to grow naturally instead of forcing connection through overthinking or emotional effort. This makes your presence feel more genuine and grounded. Detachment also helps you recognize when your emotions need attention. You no longer hide discomfort behind distractions. You acknowledge it with honesty and respond with patience. This gentle way of understanding yourself strengthens your confidence and helps you navigate difficult moments with more ease. Eventually, you begin to see how freeing this practice truly is. You are no longer shaping your happiness around external reactions. Instead, you stand in your own emotional center, steady and open. And in this steady place you discover a quiet truth. When you stop gripping everything so tightly, you make room for peace to stay. Chapter 8. Releasing the need for external validation. There comes a time when you begin questioning why approval from others once held so much power over your emotions. You notice how often you softened your truth just to avoid disappointment. You remember the moments when you shaped your reactions to keep the peace, even when it cost you your own comfort. Slowly, you begin to understand that this search for validation was never about the other person. It was a reflection of how distant you felt from yourself. You start recognizing how freeing it is to stand in your own truth without waiting for someone else to confirm it. A quiet shift happens inside you when you stop asking, "Do they think I'm enough?" and begin asking, "Do I feel aligned with who I am?" This shift brings clarity that feels gentle yet powerful. It helps you trust yourself in situations where you once relied on reassurance to feel safe. As this understanding grows, your decisions become more honest. You no longer choose based on what others expect. You choose based on what feels right for your inner well-being. The weight that once came from trying to please everyone around you begins to fade. You feel lighter because you are no longer carrying the pressure to prove your worth through someone else's reaction. You notice your interactions becoming healthier. You express your thoughts without waiting for approval. You share your feelings without fearing how they will be received. You allow silence without assuming it is a judgment. You allow disagreement without feeling rejected. This emotional maturity brings a calm confidence that stays with you even when conversations feel difficult. You begin understanding that validation is not wrong, but depending on it for your emotional stability can leave you fragile. Real confidence is built when you honor your own truth, even when others cannot see it. You learn to appreciate your efforts without needing constant recognition. You accept your emotions without needing everyone to agree with them. This shift does not make you distant, it makes you grounded. You become more present because you are not lost in thoughts of how others might interpret your actions. You listen with more openness because you are not silently seeking approval. You give with more sincerity because you are not trying to earn worth. You already feel it inside you. As you continue freeing yourself from this need, your inner world becomes quieter. The pressure to impress fades, the fear of judgment loosens, the longing for constant reassurance weakens. In its place, a deeper sense of self begins to rise, steady, gentle, and strong. You realize that your value does not increase when people praise you, nor does it disappear when someone fails to notice your effort. Your worth simply exists, untouched by opinions, unchanged by reactions. It often surprises you how much emotional space becomes available when you stop seeking constant approval. Moments that once felt heavy now feel more open, because you are no longer waiting for someone else to decide how you should feel about yourself. This freedom arrives quietly, but it changes the way you move through your day. You begin trusting your intentions more and relying less on how they are received. You start noticing the patterns you used to follow, the way you over-explained your decisions, the way you searched for signs that someone understood you, the way you held your breath, hoping for reassurance. These tendencies fade as you grow more comfortable living from your own truth. You realize that your emotions do not need permission to exist. Your relationship with yourself deepens as you release this need. You begin treating your feelings with the same respect you once reserved for others. You listen to your inner guidance without dismissing it. You allow yourself to make choices that support your peace, even if they are not understood by everyone around you. This quiet loyalty to your own heart becomes one of your greatest strengths. Your interactions with people begin to shift as well. You show up more confidently because your worth is not balancing on their reactions. You share your thoughts without seeking agreement. You hold your boundaries without apologizing. You no longer shrink yourself to make others comfortable. This makes your presence feel more grounded and authentic. You also start understanding that not being validated does not mean you are wrong. It simply means that people view life from their own experiences, their own fears, and their own limits. You stop taking their reactions as a measure of your value. You begin appreciating the calm that comes when you let go of the need to be seen in a certain way. With this awareness, your inner world becomes steadier. You are not emotionally shaken by every small shift. You are not searching for approval in silence or praise in moments where none is given. You allow yourself to feel proud of your growth without waiting for anyone to notice. This independence does not isolate you, it strengthens your connection to yourself. You find comfort in knowing that your worth remains intact, even when you face criticism or misunderstanding. You understand that approval is temporary, but self-respect lasts as long as you continue honoring your truth. This realization allows you to move through life with a softer and steadier heart. In time, you discover that validation from others can feel good, but it is no longer something you depend on. Your peace is no longer tied to being accepted. It grows from being aligned with who you are becoming. And through this new clarity, you embrace a powerful truth. When you release the need for external validation, you create space for genuine confidence to grow within you. Chapter 9. Learning to respond instead of reacting. There is a noticeable shift in your journey when you begin understanding the difference between reacting from emotion and responding from awareness. In the past, moments of tension would pull you in quickly. A sharp tone, a sudden change, or an unexpected silence would trigger an immediate response. Now you sense that you have more control than you once believed. You pause before your words form, and this pause gives you the clarity you use to lose under pressure. You start to see that most reactions come from old habits. They rise from fear, insecurity, or the need to protect yourself. With awareness, you recognize that not every situation requires a defensive reply. Sometimes all it needs is a moment of breathing space. This simple space becomes a powerful tool, allowing you to choose your direction instead of being pushed by emotion. Your mind feels lighter when you stop letting sudden moments decide your entire emotional state. You no longer jump to conclusions. You no longer assume the worst. You no longer take things personally before understanding what is truly happening. Instead, you observe the situation with a calmer heart. This observation shows you that many conflicts fade on their own when you do not feed them with immediate reactions. You begin noticing how your relationships respond to this new approach. Conversations feel smoother because you are listening fully, not preparing your defense. You express your feelings with more clarity because you are not speaking from fear. You give others space to clarify their intentions before creating stories in your mind. This creates more trust, more understanding, and fewer emotional misunderstandings. Your emotional strength grows as you practice responding instead of reacting. You recognize the signals your body gives when you start feeling overwhelmed. You feel the tension rise, but instead of letting it control you, you slow down. You allow yourself to process rather than explode. This soft, steady control becomes one of your most meaningful forms of growth. There are moments when you catch yourself before falling into an old pattern. You feel the familiar pull, but you choose differently. You choose patience over haste. You choose understanding over assumption. You choose clarity over chaos. These choices may seem small, but they reshape the way you move through your life. Responding with awareness also changes how you view yourself. You no longer judge every emotional reaction harshly. You understand that growth does not mean never feeling triggered. It means knowing how to find your way back to center when you do. This compassion toward yourself strengthens your confidence and softens your inner dialogue. In time, you notice that you are not only calmer, you are stronger. You recover faster from difficult conversations. You navigate emotional storms with a steadiness that once felt impossible. Some lessons reveal their value only when you begin practicing them in real situations. You notice that moments which once triggered immediate reactions now give you a chance to pause and choose a calmer direction. This shift does not mean the emotion disappears, but it shows that you no longer feel controlled by it. You begin understanding that your strength comes from the space you create between what you feel and what you do next. You recognize familiar patterns when they rise, the tension in your chest, the urge to defend yourself, the pressure to respond instantly. Instead of letting these signals push you into old habits, you slow down and give yourself permission to breathe. This breath softens the intensity and reminds you that clarity takes a moment to settle. You learn that being thoughtful is far more powerful than being quick. Your interactions feel more meaningful as you continue this practice. You respond with intention because your words are no longer shaped by fear or frustration. You ask questions before assuming the worst. You wait for the full picture before forming conclusions. This patience helps you see people more accurately and reduces misunderstandings that once drained your energy. You also notice how your inner dialogue changes. You no longer blame yourself for feeling triggered. You understand that emotions are natural responses, not signs of weakness. What matters is how gently you guide yourself back to balance. This self-kindness strengthens your ability to stay calm, even when the situation feels tense. As your awareness grows, you start seeing that many situations do not require a reaction at all. Some comments are not worth responding to. Some behaviors reflect the other person's struggle, not your failure. Some conflicts dissolve when you choose not to fuel them. This understanding brings a quiet freedom into your life, a freedom that protects your peace. Your relationships benefit from this shift as well. You listen more openly because you are not preparing to defend yourself. You remain steady even when emotions rise around you, and this steadiness encourages calmer interactions. People feel safer around a grounded presence, and you gradually become that presence. You begin trusting yourself in ways you never did before. You rely on your inner steadiness instead of waiting for reassurance. You notice your reactions softening, your responses becoming clearer, and your confidence increasing with every mindful choice. You understand that growth is not about eliminating emotion, it is about guiding it with awareness. Over time, this way of responding becomes natural. You no longer feel pulled into every emotional wave. You no longer let sudden changes in someone's mood dictate your own. And as this understanding deepens, a powerful truth becomes clear. You do not need control over the situation to stay steady. You only need control over your response. Chapter 10. Building Emotional Strength Through Self-Reflection. Growth often begins quietly, and one of the most meaningful shifts is when you start looking within instead of searching for answers outside yourself. You begin noticing how your thoughts shape your reactions and how your inner dialogue influences the meaning you give each moment. This awareness builds slowly, but it teaches you that clarity begins inside before it appears in your actions. A short pause becomes enough to change how you respond. You see patterns you once followed without awareness. You notice reactions shaped by fear, old memories, or the need to protect yourself. You understand that some emotions rise not because of the present moment, but because your heart remembers something from before. This recognition helps you meet your feelings with honesty instead of resistance. Self-reflection teaches you to observe rather than judge. You look at past reactions with understanding. You see moments where insecurity guided you or where worry shaped your choices. Instead of blaming yourself, you learn from these experiences. This learning becomes the base of your emotional strength. Strength begins to feel different now. It is not about staying unaffected. It is about knowing what you feel and choosing how to respond. It is about recognizing which emotions need attention and which ones will pass if you give them space. This awareness brings a stability you once tried to find through approval or reassurance. Your relationships also shift as clarity grows. You speak with more intention because you are not defending yourself from imagined meanings. You listen more openly because you are not overwhelmed by assumptions. You allow space in conversations without jumping to conclusions. This calmer approach creates connection without emotional pressure. You begin identifying the stories your mind creates before they pull you into confusion. You notice when assumptions start forming and gently guide yourself back to what is real. This awareness protects your peace and reduces misunderstandings that once drained your energy. Each time you return to clarity, your confidence grows. Reflection also helps you see your progress. You notice that your reactions are softer, your thoughts are clearer. You recognize the resilience you built through difficult moments. These realizations remind you that growth continues even when you cannot see it clearly. You learn to sit with your emotions without letting them define you. You allow yourself to feel without becoming lost in the feeling. You give yourself space to understand what your heart is trying to express. This space becomes a quiet source of strength. You no longer expect perfection. You value honesty, patience, and consistency. Reaching this stage of your journey shows you how much has changed within you. What once felt confusing now carries a sense of clarity, and the emotions that once controlled your reactions no longer feel as heavy. You begin to recognize that true growth is not loud or dramatic. It is steady and quiet, built through the small choices you make each day to understand yourself more deeply. Reflection helps you see the progress that often goes unnoticed. You realize that your responses have softened, your thoughts have become clearer, and your heart holds more patience than before. You understand your patterns with greater honesty, and this honesty allows you to move through difficult moments without losing your balance. You no longer expect perfection from yourself. You trust the gentle rhythm of your growth. Your relationships also show the changes inside you. You express yourself with calm confidence because you are no longer trying to protect an old version of yourself. You listen without assuming the worst. You allow space for people to be human without letting their emotions take over your own. This steadiness makes connection feel more grounded and real. As you look inward, you learn to guide your emotions instead of resisting them. You understand when a feeling needs attention and when it is simply passing through. You allow yourself to feel without letting the feeling define who you are. This acceptance brings a sense of peace that once felt out of reach. You no longer fear your emotions. You walk beside them with understanding. There are still moments when uncertainty returns, but you meet those moments differently now. You pause instead of reacting. You breathe instead of panicking. You respond with clarity instead of fear. Each small act of awareness becomes proof of how much strength you have built along the way. You begin trusting your ability to find your way back, no matter how far you drift. Your inner world feels more stable than before. You hold your boundaries with kindness. You choose your responses with intention. You return to yourself with ease. And slowly, you realize that emotional strength is not about standing firm at all times. It is about knowing how to return to your center whenever life pulls you away. As this chapter closes, you recognize the deeper truth hidden in your journey. You have reclaimed the space within you. You have learned to understand your emotions instead of fighting them. You have built a connection with yourself that cannot be controlled by anyone else. And with this understanding, your story in this audiobook reaches its final note, not as an ending, but as a beginning of a more grounded, peaceful, and emotionally free version of you.